anyone who thought that this was a scam, anyone who thought that this was not a thing, and everyone thought it wouldn't become what it's going to become, it's like, well, it's happening.
Commonwealth Bank has 6.5 million customers. Now, all of a sudden, you're going to be able to see your crypto balance alongside your bank account, alongside your mortgage. How's that for adoption here in our country?
I know.
And that's just Australia, which only has 25 million people.
Let's just go and see the world and just show them what it really means to live life golden. Yeah, we're golden, baby girl, we're golden. Yeah.
All right, so bar out.
Look at him now. He just wants to go outside.
No, mate, it's raining. What a day. What a day.
Yeah, crazy. Big day. Big day.
Yeah, massive. Like, I seen the news this morning at about 9, I think it was 10 a.m. or something. Had a look. And so for those of you who aren't up to date with it, CommBank, now incorporating cryptocurrency into their financial system, their banking system.
Yeah, they're going to have custody of I reckon they'll do the top 10. Yeah, which is massive in terms of security, because typically with brokerages now, if they were to get hacked, will you get your money back? Not too sure. Whereas now with the bank, they have to. So if they were to get hacked and you lose your crypto, they'll return that. So that's massive.
What would be the process of, like, whatever you're on now, transferring onto their platform?
So you just have to set up, there'll be a wallet address, and then you just transfer it over. The only thing I can imagine with the bank is that they're going to stinge you out on the fees and also the spread. So if you buy it on their exchange, which I'm sure they'll bring into place, they'll rip you off. Just like, what's the Aussie one? CoinSpot?
Oh, we were using that early on.
Yeah, they're the first one that you use here in Australia, and then you realise, I went and did the research because that's right before I was about to make my my big purchase initially, and it would have cost me tens of thousands in fees. So that's when I looked to Binance, and Binance was the better exchange, just because the fees are really low and the spread is pretty much even with what the price is. So CoinSpot rips you off.
Oh yeah, I was getting hammered by them early on.
Yeah, and even to transfer money off their exchange as well. Like, I don't remember what the fee was. But
We had a bit of an experience with that. So I was transferring. I was trying to get off CoinSpot, right? And I had it. Like, it wasn't a crazy amount of money, but it was enough that you would still get worried if it fucking went missing. And we made the transfer and it didn't land for like an hour and a half.
And I was the one who clicked the button to send it off, and I was like, oh no, it hasn't arrived yet. And I was like, I'm gonna have to replace this money for him. I'm gonna have to pay him back
because it's meant to be instant. That's it.
It's meant to be instant, yeah.
And it was like an hour and a half.
They actually called you, didn't
I was
they?
sweating, man. Like, as I said, it wasn't a huge amount of money. Like, it wasn't like, everything I had, but it was like...
It's enough to
get you going. Like, it was fucking scary. Because it's like, I think that's been crypto for this, like, up until, this point is like, it's the Wild West. Like, get your shit together. The bank's not going to just fucking pick up, it's not like, your exchange is just going to pick up your, the mistakes that you make. Like, the exchanges are pretty good. Like, I know they are. If you do get hacked or something happens, they do have emergency funds and stuff like that now. Yeah. But early on, that shit just didn't exist. So,
and the user experience is something that they're constantly improving as well. Like, the learning curve when you first get into this is massive, but once you're in it, like, to buy and sell now, it's so easy.
Yeah.
But initially, man, such a learning experience. Yeah.
So confusing.
And even just transferring from one exchange to another. Like, that was a massive learning experience.
Oh, yeah. Especially because, you don't get a second chance.
Well, that's right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not like, you
can't
do
call
this,
up the bank and say, I've transferred it to the wrong place. Can you get that money back for me? Yeah, can you find that money? If you do it and you transfer it to the wrong address, then you're screwed.
Yeah.
Like, good luck getting that money back.
Crazy.
You have to find that person, how do you do when there's no name attached to it? And then, try to get them to retransfer it back to you.
But I suppose it's like Pay ID now. These days you can pay a phone number from, your CommBank, and that's like how a wallet works.
Exactly. No, it's so simple once you get the hang of it. And in every manner, it is better than the current banking system. In every single possible way.
Like we talk about it often. Once you see it, you can't unsee it.
No.
You know what I mean? Like it's like,
instant
transferring.
credit.
It literally is. But it's like, if you're in stocks, right, and you need to sell a stock, it usually takes about 2 days
for it to settle.
Just for that to settle, then you've got to transfer off. And that off an exchange, if you want to take it off, that takes another 2 to 3 days, and it's 5 days. And like, let's say you wanted
then
that
it's
money,
only just sitting in your bank account.
Yeah,
like you've got to wait for it to hit your bank account, and then if you want to do something with that money, then you've got to wait that extra period. It's a pain in the ass, and the bank has every incentive to hold on to that money. Like even if you're transferring off an exchange, they'll take as long as they possibly can, because they're making money off that money. If you have any money sitting in a bank, technically that money isn't yours anymore because it's now sitting on their balance sheet. They're happy to pay you back your 0.05% in interest in order to do so, and that's what keeps you coming back and keep your money sitting in their account. They're making, if they invest that into an S&P 500, for example, they're making 8% return on your money.
And and the crazy thing is that nobody knows, which Greg Foss talked about it, is that if the banks were to,
they're levered up 15 to 20 times.
Yeah.
So if they were to collapse, they have to rely on the banks to bail them out, or else everybody who has money in their bank account has lost it.
Yeah.
It's gone.
And just in simple terms, so it's like, if the bank was to, retract all the money that they had lent out, they would still be in debt 15 to 20x, which is fucking wild, because it's like, how does, like, imagine you ran your business that way. Like imagine anyone ran their business that way, and it's just like far out. Like that's ridiculous. And the fact that they get away with it just shows at how much fucking blind faith that we as humans put in the current financial system.
Yep.
Not anymore.
Well, it's crazy. Once you the trick to doing well and succeeding financially is to understand how the market works. It's to understand how the economy actually runs and how your money actually works. Because as soon as you start to realize how money actually works, that's when you can start to have the game play for you instead of the game playing you, like you become a pawn in the system, essentially. And so the number one reason why people aren't wealthy is because they don't own anything. People think that owning their home or something, you need to own a productive asset. You need to own something that works for you. And so if you don't have that, you're not going to be wealthy. It's a matter of fact. And so what I'm talking about is owning something like investment property or owning shares or something like that, something that's actually out there being productive and growing, as opposed to just,
And earning you an income.
Earning an income, yeah.
Another income outside of just your job. Because owning your home, it may go up in value, right? And long term, that's a pretty good investment, right? But it's not bringing in a passive income.
No. And you've got expenses in regards to that property as well. You've got your maintenance, you've got your rates, utilities, everything like that. And then you got to factor in the interest that you're paying on that loan too. So even if you're paying only 3% interest over the term of that loan, if you've got $1 million loan, that equates to $400,000. Actually, sorry, no more. About $600,000 that you're paying over the entirety of that home. So if you buy $1 million home, you'll, over the course of the 30-year period, you'll pay $1.6 million.
We're looking at you, Disco. And the second bit of news, right, was Coinbase.
Yeah. You can now use your crypto as collateral in order to get a loan.
So
typically when you go out and get a loan, you have to supply your income statements from your bank, like your pay slips. If you run a business, you have to hand over your balance sheet and your income statement and all that sort of stuff. Now, if you have crypto within your portfolio, you can use that as collateral, and you can get up to $1 million in a loan, and that'll be instant. So you won't have to contact a broker have them run all the financials, and also then go out to the market to see who's interested in taking you on. You won't have any of that. It'll be instant. You get that money straight away. Not sure what the LVR will be on that just yet. Based on current loans that I've taken against my crypto, it's about 50%. So if you've got $100,000 of Bitcoin sitting in your portfolio, you're eligible for $50,000 as a loan. And again, you get that money straight away, ready to use straight away.
So if you've got $100,000, you can only get a $50,000 loan?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you had $1 million of Bitcoin, you could get
$500,000 loan.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Because you're using that as the collateral instead of, like, in the traditional model, if you go out and get a mortgage, you use the home as the collateral. Personal loan, a bit different, but then that's why they charge such high interest on those. So it'll be interesting what Coinbase's interest is as well.
And so what this means is that, like, there's a few different, like, utilities that you could potentially use, right? So, if you had $2 million in Bitcoin, you could probably go out and get a loan and buy a home with it.
Exactly.
And you would get $1 million home.
Exactly.
Which is crazy to think about. But then you could also not sell your Bitcoin or any of your crypto and then live off the loan that you're taking out as well, which means that you're not forced to sell because of the position you're in or to live and these kind of things as well, which is crazy to think about.
Well, the crazy thing is you can go out and you can get that loan, and even if you don't want to take the risk, and like, you could technically go out and buy more Bitcoin with that loan and hope that it appreciates against it, and then that way you're offsetting that interest. You can go out right now and you can get a yield of 10% on stablecoins. So you could literally hold US dollar and earn 10% yield on that money. And so long as that interest rate is below, the interest rate on the loan is below that yield that you're receiving, you're making money. Pretty crazy.
Yeah.
It's a whole, like you said, once you realize this thing, like, the cat's out of the bag. There's no one unseeing this. It's a better system than what we currently have, and it actually works in your favor as opposed to working against you.
So what does this mean then? What do these two bits of news mean, right? Because
it shows the adoption is it's massive, and the legacy system is starting to take notice. Like, this thing is going to be in our lives day to day from now on.
Isn't it fucking crazy? Hold on. Isn't it fucking crazy that we sat down a year ago today, or like, and probably what?
It's been about a year since I bought my first position,
and it's like, just to see the whole thing play out is fucking crazy. Because it's like, you took, you led the way in terms of, you were studying for 3 months, 4 months, full time, every day. And I just remember you coming to me and being like, dude, I think this is it. Yeah. And I'm like, fuck, what are you talking about? Okay, what? And then, you invested in what, October?
Yeah,
late October, and I think I made my first investment in November. And it's fucking wild. And you know what? The other side of it is like, we went through the graphs the other week, and isn't it fucking just crazy? As like, you look at a graph and it says that it's going to do this, and then news comes out like, this news comes out and it's like, it literally is mind blowing.
Yeah, it just syncs up. It just shows that, like, as a human species, we're so prone to these psychological.
We don't learn from our mistakes.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly. We just keep repeating the same patterns of behavior.
So adoption is huge, and that means that anyone who thought that this was a scam, anyone who thought that this was not a thing, and everyone thought it wouldn't become what it's going to become, it's like, well, it's happening.
Commonwealth Bank has 6.5 million customers. Now all of a sudden you're going to be able to see your crypto balance alongside your bank account, alongside your mortgage. How's that for adoption here in our country?
I know.
And that's just Australia, which only has 25 million people.
And it's like, you think about from a Commonwealth Bank perspective, I think, they're smart. Because it's like, you're in first, right? So anyone who maybe was on the fence, or anyone who still needed to use the banking system, they're probably going to capture customers. But the pressure that now comes on the others as well is like, do you want to be last? And that's the thing that I think is we're going to see really, really quickly.
The real pressure is actually now on regulators.
Oh, yeah.
Because now that our biggest institution has come out saying that we're going to be holding or using our services as a custody holder of Bitcoin, they're going to have to come out and they're going to have to really try to make some gains in terms of trying to come up with a regulation that is suitable for this asset. I was on the meeting with an accountant before this, and it's a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare trying to deal with this space in terms of a tax point of view. They're going to have to catch up. Good luck. Don't know how they're going to do that with everything that's happening in DeFi and everything like that. But, man, this is massive. This is actually a massive decision from the Commonwealth Bank. And we're lucky here in Australia. Like, it's ironic that we have one of the best banking systems in the world, and yet it's still so far behind this crypto space.
Do you think the others now will follow?
Yeah, they will. Yeah.
They have to. They have to. Like, the adoption, what's currently happening, you just don't want to be last.
Well, CommBank is considered the market leader here in Australia, and so, yeah, the others will follow suit. It's like we've seen it recently with all the interest rate hikes. One falls and then the rest will.
Yeah.
How's that? All of a sudden there's 25 million people in Australia who have exposure to Bitcoin from their main bank.
That's crazy.
We've just seen the oldest bank in Thailand incorporate the same thing as well.
I think the big chip to fall will obviously be a US bank, and properly, like, a big domino. There's been hints and little things here or there, but I think Australia at the moment, one bank doesn't have nearly enough power to actually make any difference in terms of pricing. But once one of those big,
I think JP Morgan,
they talked about it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. I don't know if they have, but
Jamie Dimon, he's not a big fan of crypto, so I imagine he'll be the last, and he'll also be the last to win out on this space too. Massive decision. This is so bullish.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's fucking crazy. Like, it's literally crazy. Yeah. Oh, man. I remember sitting at Christmas and it was like, nah, this could never happen. And then it's fucking happening. So,
last Christmas was fun too. Like, going through that bull period during the last Christmas, I had a very good Christmas last year and New Year's. This year it's going to be even better.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I think it's great for society too. I've lived and listened to a few different people, and I don't know if you've been on Real Vision as of late, but
I haven't actually.
There was a really good interview with I think his name's Peter Diomedes, or something like that, and just this guy's one of the smartest most futuristic thinkers in the world, and some of the things he was talking about, but what this space can actually do for society is just. We're in a revolution, and I think it's going to be really, really good for society. There's going to be some hurdles, but it's going to be great to be a part of.
Sure will. Man, crazy. Absolutely crazy. And we're just going to start to see more and more of these stories. So now what that means is Commonwealth Bank will have to have Bitcoin on their balance sheet.
100%.
They'll actually have to custody this thing.
Yeah. How much?
Oh, I don't know. It'll depend on how much the regulator, APRA, says that they need to hold on the balance sheet. So typically for their mortgage balance, so the loans that they lend out for mortgages, they have to hold, I think it's like $10 billion worth. I'm trying to think of the numbers what CommBank would have on their balance sheet, but I don't know. Their loan book is probably, close to $500 billion. So it's not a lot that they have to custody, but they'll have to custody a fair bit.
Well, I mean, and they'll have to custody whatever it grows at. You know what I mean? Like who's to, what does it look like in 6 months for them? How many people go to CommBank for this very reason?
Yeah.
Fuck, I'll probably do it. If NAB don't pick up their game in the next couple of weeks, they'll probably do it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, why wouldn't I?
It's a great marketing scheme too.
Because it's, like the thing is like I went to go get pre-approved for a house loan 4 months ago, and it's like these these guys weren't recognizing any Bitcoin or any crypto as an asset. There's like they asked me to take screenshots of my fucking of my exchange and all my transactions. Like, are you kidding? Not putting that on the internet. You know what I mean? But it's all because they didn't recognize it as an asset. And I'm like, well, I don't want to go through that process again.
Well, even with my own experience with CommBank, so they're one of two banks that I go through. Anytime I would have money on there and I would be trying to transfer it out onto Binance, they would actually place a hold on those payments. And they would call me and they'd run fraudulent checks and all this sort of thing. And it was a pain in the ass because I wanted my money there so I could get into the market. Anytime I'm sitting on cash, it stresses me out, as you know.
Yeah.
Anytime I'm sitting on cash, it stresses me out. And so, yeah, it's a pain in the ass. Whereas now I'm hoping that this will speed up the whole process. That way I can get my money on there sooner, and then that way I can have it investing and working for me. Game changer. This is huge.
Huge.
And this is just here in Australia. Like, wait until we start to see this roll out across the world. Once the domino falls, the whole thing will tumble down with it. It's going to be bloody exciting.
We actually had some questions. So we're going to jump into them now because I think they relate pretty heavily. So I'm just going to pull them up. We put up a Q&A for everyone listening. We put up a questions box on our Instagram. So go chuck some questions in if you're listening to this, or feel free to shoot us some messages on Instagram if you got some questions that you want us to answer, because we definitely will start doing a lot more Q&A stuff on the investors, which is something we've had requested. But question number one is, what does CommBank incorporating with crypto look like? How will it be used in the traditional banking system?
So it'll essentially, within the CommBank app, you've got your different tiles and that sort of thing. And so it shows your bank balance and also whatever loans that you have out with them and all that sort of thing. It'll probably be just another tile underneath it that will basically be a Bitcoin wallet or a Ethereum wallet or whatever the case may be. And that's probably how it will look. It'll be interesting whether we start to see them take Bitcoin and other crypto as payment or use that crypto as collateral in order to take out loans. It'll just be, this is obviously early stages, and they'll be running, or they'll probably launch some sort of MVP, and they'll get it out to a select few, and then once they're happy with it, they'll roll it out. But I think as this market matures, obviously there's going to be so many things that they can potentially do with this space. So they'll essentially probably build out their own little exchange within the CommBank platform.
Do you reckon they'll use CommSec?
I think it'll be separate to CommSec.
Yep.
They could be bringing out a whole new app for crypto.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is like the recognition of the fact that it's an asset. Like
the fact that they're going to be custodying those assets on their balance sheet, that is massive. That is huge. It's basically it's exactly what El Salvador did. They actually had to hold it as treasury, and so and exactly what Tesla has done. They put some of their treasury reserve into Bitcoin. They'll have to do the same thing.
Because if people want to start spending it and that money needs to move in and out.
Exactly.
And
they'll need to have it on their balance sheet in order to fulfill those orders.
So cool. Okay. So will CBA provide more security guarantee on crypto selections?
Yes, they will. So again, what we were talking about before is, say you were to get hacked and that money is taken from you, they'll have to reimburse you because they'll be the ones holding your private keys most likely. So you won't. Again, it's the same as you having money within a bank account. So technically, once it's on the bank account, it goes onto their balance sheet, becomes an asset for them. And so again, same thing will apply here. So they will basically hold the private keys. So in that sense, it is not secure. But because they're regulated here by APRA and also ASIC, if that money was to go missing, they will have to reimburse you. I'm not too sure how much till. It could be 200,000, 250,000, but that's something. It's a positive, 100%.
Awesome. Yeah. So, okay, this is
Here we go.
this is probably a bit of a deeper question. And I think we need to be careful about how we answer it. But are we converting crypto holdings back into a stable coin as it creeps up towards the 100K mark? Or are we going to ride out the bear market? So we're not going to give this out as advice, but I think what we more talk about is because for people listening, they're probably not going to know what stable coins are. So maybe you can explain a little bit about stable coins and what their utility is.
Yeah, so stablecoin, it's essentially in the name. Technically, it's a crypto that's backed by a certain amount of US dollars. For example, there's also one for the euro. There's also one for the pound as well. And so essentially, they basically have to have a one-for-one treasury. So if they've got $1 million worth of stable coin, they have to have $1 million worth of the underlying asset that holds onto that. Tether is one that we're not too sure about. We don't know how much they actually hold in their treasury to sort of sustain that balance. But then you've got to factor in that if you do sell out of a crypto in this bull market, that will then become a taxable event. So you will have to pay tax on that transaction.
And that's something that's newly come in. I think a lot of people aren't aware of that yet. But if you keep it on the exchange and you sell, so if you sell some Bitcoin, potentially make a profit on that, and even though it's on the exchange and you might buy something like Ethereum, you still have to pay tax on whatever you're profiting or whatever you have profited from the Bitcoin trade.
Yeah.
So,
and even if you make a transaction from, say, Bitcoin into Ethereum, that's again another transaction. So that will become a taxable event. And they are across all of it.
Yeah, fuck.
They have, I'm pretty sure they have tapped into the API from Binance, and Binance has recently had to succumb to the AML and KYC and everything like that. And so, yeah, they are fully across it. The ATO is fully across it.
So does that mean the ATO is fully across all the platforms?
Most likely all the big exchanges, yes. Yeah. So got to be careful. I had a meeting with my accountant this morning, and so this is something that I'm having to really consider now as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely making you second guess some of your trades now, right? Or like some of the investments that you're making, especially now, like it's about to go, pretty crazy. We think And I think that's the thing that you can. I know definitely in my early days of trading stocks, I kind of got tripped up there. Like you're not really aware that you have to pay tax. And my thoughts were, if it hits the account, if it hits the bank account, then I pay tax on it. But it's not the case. So, that's probably one thing everyone's going to have to keep an eye on from here, or at least think more about their future. Is like,
go and speak to a financial advisor or an accountant or something like that. Yeah.
Definitely reach out to your accountant, reach out to your financial advisor, and start to have these conversations, because it's something that you can definitely get you into a bit of trouble.
Yeah, and their accountants and they're starting to become more aware of it. My one that I spoke to this morning, she was sort of saying that they've only had people come across with small holdings and all that sort of thing, but there's going to be more and more people coming across with quite a lot of money and quite a lot of gains that they've made, and they're going to have to come up with some sort of solution to try and help mitigate or bring down taxes as much as possible. So,
is there any way around? Just say someone likes to shift altcoins a lot. Now that they've brought this in, and you get taxed on every time you do that, is that's just the law now, or is there another way around that?
No, that's the law. So technically, there's two different types of taxes. So you're either considered an investor or you're considered a trader. A lot of the time, if you're buying and selling all the time, that is considered trading, and that becomes technically like a profession, like an income for you, and so you'll be paying the highest tax on those sort of transactions. So definitely go and speak to an accountant or a financial advisor.
What are we? So this question is more. It's more around like spending Bitcoin, or how far do we think we're away from being able to spend Bitcoin on like everyday goods?
Well, this step with Commonwealth Bank, that brings us one step closer. 100%. If you've got money sitting on your account, all they need to do is partner up with a MasterCard or someone and bring out a credit card that will tap into that account, and you'll soon be able to go out and spend it. There's platforms overseas that allow you to do that now, and we're only going to see more and more come out.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, definitely. So I don't think they'll never really change the pricing of the actual instrument, because the question was around like a simplified way to charge for things in cryptocurrency. But I think what will happen is CommBank will come out, they'll do the transfer for you based on the cost of the good that you're buying, and that'll be how it works.
The issue with that, though, again, if we're currently on the way that the tax laws are structured, if we spend that money on a transaction, you're not just paying GST on that transaction, you're actually paying CGT, capital gains tax.
Yeah.
And so you might think that you get like copping a bargain because you're using the profits that you've made from your Bitcoin in order to go out and purchase something. But in actual fact, you're going out to purchase that item, and then you're going to be paying CGT on top of that. So that item then becomes even more expensive.
And they've done that on purpose, haven't they? They basically classify something like Bitcoin or one of these assets like they do property.
Well, like it's considered a security, so it's exactly the same as an equity. So shares at the moment. Whether we see a shift in that regard, probably, because now you've got countries like El Salvador accepting it as a currency. So it's no different to going over there and spending US dollars. That will eventually cause a shift in how our government regulates it. But for right now, that's the way that they manage it. And so, yeah, just be careful.
I think there's going to be a few people holding on for dear life, right? How long can I wait this out until they start to change some of these laws?
Yeah, exactly. And there's other strategies that you can use against it, like going out and taking out a loan against that asset, potentially. This is definitely not financial advice, but you can go out and take a loan against it. Those interest repayments will then become tax deductible, and you can then use that loan to go out and purchase goods and services or buy a home or whatever the case may be. So that's a strategy around it, but
that's what
it becomes more of an advanced strategy if you do that too. You've got to understand the requirements around that.
And that's what makes Coinbase's announcement so massive.
Massive, up to $1 million too. So you can actually go out now and use that crypto holding and use it as collateral to go out and purchase a home. Massive. You'll be able to get that money straight away. You won't have to go see a broker. You won't have to submit any tax returns, any pay slips, none of it.
And that's the thing that I think is what we're starting to see is, how does Web3 actually start to get rid of things that are just unnecessary at times? Like this
and will remove a lot of costs.
Yeah.
Because a mortgage broker, for example, they take their fee, and then you have all the other parties that are involved that they will take their fee. And this is why when you purchase a home, for example, it's not just so straightforward as you just going and purchasing the home. You've got to pay stamp duty. You've got to pay lender's mortgage insurance. You've got to pay all these sort of fees for conveyances and, all of it. And it's a pain in the ass.
Everyone wants a slice of their pie.
That's right. And so crypto is going to solve a lot of those problems, and they'll take away that middleman and just make the whole system way more efficient. As soon as you open your eyes and realize this is the way the world's going. And we're not going back.
Yeah, and this is, it changes business. It literally changes your business model. And this is kind of like, this is what, when you talk about this previously, people think you're crazy. But just think about the consequences of Coinbase coming out, and who does it affect, right? Like whose business does this affect? The fact that Coinbase now will allow you to use collateral in order to borrow money. We just talked about some of them. You know what I mean? Like we don't have to go through the banks.
They've
and
essentially become a bank.
fucking send someone 67 pay slips and all that kind of stuff. It's horrible. It's one of the worst experience. It makes you not want to do it ever again, or do it regularly. And I think it's just
It'll
crazy.
take away settlement as well. Settlement is one of the most stressful. If you've ever bought a home before, it's one of the most stressful times that you can have, because you then have to wait all that time to make sure that everything is compliant, and make sure that there's nothing wrong with the property. Make sure that the seller's happy for you to exchange over the property and everything like that. That's all goes away.
I just feel like, if the people that aren't believing this or a part of it, surely now CBA, they've got it on their sheets. That has to be something that people's like, wow, I need to get onto this.
Oh, 100%. This will be a domino that a lot of people who just... I think everybody, I think everybody before this announcement today goes, yeah, cryptocurrency is the future. But I think the overestimation was how long it would take to actually hit. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's just because there's a lack of understanding there. That's the reality. But I think, definitely now people are going to start to go, well, okay, what does this mean for me? Right, and then eventually that forces people to do research, and like we said, is like once you see this, you can't unsee it. Anyone that I know that has the pennies dropped.
And just to put it into perspective as well, the current market that DeFi is going after is currently, like, the traditional banking legacy system is currently valued around $7.5 trillion, and that's basically what DeFi is trying to go after. What Bitcoin is going after is any sort of storage of wealth. So that is real estate, that is bonds. That's a $200-300 trillion market.
We're currently, what, 2 trillion?
Yeah, the whole entire crypto space is about 2 trillion.
Yeah. So it's,
That's 100x.
Yeah. And, only if it captures, let's say it captures a third, right? So let's say it just captures a third. And that's realistic. Right, and let's not put a time on it. But if it captures a third of that, it's 50x from here. Right, so that's a way to think about it. And the utility that you get on the back of Web3 and everything that's becomes possible from a business model perspective. What it does for the everyday person and the ability for them to access investments, what it does for the self-employed business owner, the creator, allows them to directly monetize without having to worry about big corporations. So when it's music artists or any type of creator in the audio space, you're looking at things such as Spotify. Joe Rogan, all of a sudden, who got paid $200 million to give the rights of the podcast away to Spotify, currently sits there now, and it's a mistake. Mm-hmm. It's a mistake, because what could he have done?
Beforehand he was decentralized because it was just him. Now all of a sudden he's centralized, and so his personal brand has actually shrunk because of that. You're better off being your own entity, because then you have say over everything, and then you can actually price in how much you're actually worth.
And you can monetize your community. Yeah. Instead of having it monetized for you.
Well, he essentially went from being a business owner to then becoming an employee. He went backwards.
And I think understanding why that's a mistake. Yeah, everyone will be like, yeah, 200 million, that's crazy. Well, okay, how much did CryptoPunk fucking whatever it was the other day sell for? Right, it was $500 million or something.
It turns out that was
just fraud, right? But let's go to the next one then.
It wasn't fraud. It was a way for them to make arbitrage off the trade.
Yeah. But let's look at the next in line then. What was it? What 200 million? 100 million? Right? I don't know. That's just rough numbers. But it's okay. Well, what would a Joe Rogan episode go for? What would Joe Rogan and Elon Musk episode where he smoked chuff on the thing, what would that as an NFT go for? If you could own the digital rights to that? Don't even at me.
Yep.
Right? And it's he's got 2,000 episodes? And that's just an NFT. Imagine he brought out his own social token.
And every time you then sell that as well, you get
royalties
royalty on top of it.
And this is the thing, Joe Rogan's the biggest, but what about the small ones?
Yeah.
What about the small ones who only have 1,000 fans? who are trying to make it on Instagram, but Instagram or, one of these social medias just don't, because they don't have 20,000 people following them, but they do have 1,000 loyal ones, right? It allows them to actually, it gives them more
Talk about news. How about Facebook? Facebook has completely shifted their entire business model.
Did you see that video?
Yeah.
Yeah, crazy.
What do you think about this? Because I'm not... I think...
It's... As much as people have an issue with Facebook, and I'm one of them, the fact that they are a $1 trillion company and they're shifting everything because they know that this is the way the world is going, it is massive. Just think of the adoption that is going to take place. Facebook has, 3 billion users?
Yeah.
Now, all of a sudden, 3 billion users have access and have some sort of exposure to crypto, to the metaverse. It is massive.
Yeah. I definitely agree. It's massive for the brand of blockchain and Web3. And Web3 is like, what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. It's like the third evolution of the internet. So it's great for the brand. I don't think they're going to get it right, and I don't think they're going to be successful. I really don't. I think the way that they see it all playing out is not... It's not... I don't think they're the way they think about it, they want it to be centralized. For me, they're still in the old mindset. And we're going to talk about this in our next pod on the startup and talk about, talk a little bit about DAOs and stuff like this. But open is the way of the future. That's the philosophy of Web3 and the philosophy of the metaverse, is it for it to be open. Mm-hmm. Facebook are going to have a really, really... I know, I actually hope they go the other way, but they're going to have a really tough time doing that.
Well, they have said that it's going to be an open network. So potentially... I disagree. I think that they will. They've shown that they know how to execute. They've got a massive war chest, obviously, and they'll make it work. It's exactly like Square coming out saying that they're building a decentralized open network, an open exchange in order to buy and sell crypto, and then that way,
but
the
who's
other
at
day,
the helm?
Jack Dorsey.
And who's at the helm of Facebook?
Well, but that being said, Mark Zuckerberg has already started to put in a succession plan, so he'll probably step down in the next couple of years. And then it'll be on to the next person. And any company where they've had the founder step down has actually flourished, especially when they're that big. Look at Microsoft, look at Google. They've only grown. But same with Apple as well.
The part of me that the only argument I would have for that is that nobody under 25 uses Facebook anymore. Right? So they're the people that actually drive the adoption of this. They're the people who understand it. Facebook are going to have to recapture all of those elements, or those people, sorry.
But that's what the metaverse is good at, because that will essentially allow users to get back into that space. Because
I don't think it will, though.
Users still use Instagram. The under 25 still use Instagram.
Oh, not as much, man.
Well, yeah, you're probably right.
So my partner, she's 25, doesn't use Instagram. TikTok. Anyone that's under the age of 18 doesn't even know what Instagram is. They're on TikTok. They're on games.
But that's essentially what the metaverse will be. It'll be a game. It'll be this sort of virtual world. I don't know whether virtual reality will be the thing that sort of gets us there, but this actual metaverse, it'll be interesting to see what they do with it. Because if they're able to create something similar to what Axie is doing, then you never know. It depends what their actual vision is, what they're trying to achieve. And that's going to take some time. But they've got, I think it's like a third of their workforce now working on the metaverse.
I'm in two minds about it, because I agree a lot of their users are much older now. So it's like, how are you going to capture these? But it's Facebook. We're talking about Facebook, they've got all the resources. They can make this happen.
They do, but I feel like they've done their dash. Are you going to go back on Facebook?
No.
No. And I don't think I fucking hate it. The only reason I'm still on it is because I have Facebook groups that are attached to my business. But I guarantee you, if there was a better option, which there is now, Discord, I'd do that.
Yeah, but businesses, like, there's basically a duopoly when it comes to advertising. It's Google and it's Facebook. So there's always going to be a place for it. And, like, we say we don't use Facebook, we still use it. We still have it.
Messenger.
And it's still a way for you to connect with your family and friends and that sort of thing. So it's still relevant in a big way. So they're not just going to go down quietly.
Oh, no. But, yeah, I just think that...
And you have to, like, that network effect it's rock solid. It really is.
It is. Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be very interesting.
The fact that they're willing to pivot away from that model is huge.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's their cash cow. You know, and so they're looking to pivot, and they realize the way the world is going. Anyone who's not pivoting right now is the one who are falling behind. And so, in a way, they're a market leader again. So it's interesting. I don't know whether they'll pull it off. I don't know whether the PR nightmare that they've been establishing over the last 10 years is going to work against them. For all we know, it probably will. But I think what they're doing is smart. They're realizing the way the world's going, and they're shifting in that direction.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that all the big companies in the world are the ones who are at the forefront of all these new technologies and innovations. And we've never actually seen that before. That's why you always see company like back in the, say 10 years ago, all the big companies in the world were oil. Now they're the Teslas of the world. It's a massive shift. It's hard to sort of expand into new regions.
Yeah, I think they're going to be like the MySpace, in my opinion. Like, the way, you know...
Well, they're already behind a lot of the crypto players already in the space. So.
I just think the way they think it's going to play out is not how it's going to play out. Like, I don't think the Metaverse is... And, you know, who the fuck am I? But Facebook's probably got a better understanding than I do.
And all the top talent is going towards crypto companies now anyway.
I just don't think... you know, like the fucking videos that they're bringing out Facebook, like, I just don't think that's how it's going to be. Like, it's not going to be this virtual world that you literally... Like, it might get to that eventually, but it's not going to be virtual reality where you're wearing your Oculus glasses. That's not... I just don't think that's going to be how it is. I think it's going to be more how we incorporate the virtual world into the real world, not... You know, and I heard something really, really... that caught my attention the other day, is that the Metaverse isn't a place you spend time... It's actually a period in time where we spend more time in the virtual world than what we do this world, and the experiences there will, you know, they'll become better. But I don't think that means that it's going to be like walking around in an Oculus, and that's the Metaverse. I think it's more like, well, if I can make more money playing Axie for 10 hours a day, and the graphics will get better there, just like they have in gaming, I'm going to spend 10 hours there instead of going to work.
Yeah, but I also... Like, who are they currently trying to target? It's those people who do sit down and they play games for hours and hours on end. Would you rather be just there looking at a screen? I think, like, if you could have that same experience, but it's all immersive and it's all around you, you might actually choose that. I actually think what will win out at the end of the day will be augmented reality, where you might wear a set of glasses and then, like, instead of, like, you just walking down the street seeing what you're seeing now, you might then see like a sort of like a Google Maps sort of scenario where like there's things flashing up in front of you. That's going to be a more significant technology that's going to come to the party. But
I agree.
They're sort of going for that person who's happy to sit in a chair, and they're happy to sit there for 6 hours at a time and play a game and immerse themselves in this world. They're completely different markets.
Yeah, that's my thinking as well. I just don't think that's the way it's going to go. But again, who the fuck knows? Who the fuck knows?
And then you have someone like Elon Musk who's working on Neuralink. It'll be interesting to see how Neuralink plays out.
Yeah.
I know initially they're just trying to combat like degenerative diseases like dementia and that sort of thing. But what if you can actually tap into the internet within your own mind, and then all of a sudden everything that you do becomes digital?
And it's crazy to think about this. Like, one of the biggest things that I think one of the biggest mind fucks, I'm just going to say it, mind fucks that you go through in life is realizing that the world you see is not the truth, right? It's just a perception. So, you know, based on all my experiences in the past, what I see right now is purely a perception. and that's why we all see the world differently.
Yeah, it's subjected to your own bias.
Yeah, Neuralink and how that can tap into your perception, and then how that can start to change the way you see the world based on that.
Well, the way that we see the world is determined by the information that we've received and that sort of thing. And so if you're now receiving information from the internet, essentially, obviously, well, it's interesting though, because like you have a lot of stuff that happens on Facebook and like it's all hate. Like maybe that'll make us all angrier.
Yeah, who knows?
I guess it depends what information you feed into that system. So you'd hope it'd be positive.
I think another thing that I was reading up about the other day is that how the metaverse will actually make us spend less time on our phones.
Why?
Because the more time that you, because what it's going to become is less about watching your phone, and as the technology develops, it's actually more like things that, like you said, like wearables and these kind of things. And it's like, well, no longer do you spend more time on this. You're actually experiencing more of that virtual world through other mechanisms, right? Which means that Apple's gonna be forced through this to really pivot.
Google, they're probably the two leaders in augmented reality right now.
Yeah.
But we haven't seen anything from Apple sort of trying to get involved in the metaverse or anything like that. But they're a lot more calculated and.
Well, you know why? Because it fucks them. This whole think about it. Like, why is it so hard? They literally are the gatekeepers in terms of apps and platforms. To have an app, they take what is it, 30% of any in-app or any in-app purchases and any actually any app sales, right? So it's like, if you think about it from this perspective, that it goes against what Web3 is all about, which is open, which is you can go from world to world, and this is the world right now. The iPhone is the world, and it's like, okay, well, they don't want you going from world to world, and that's what I'm saying.
Well, it's also their inbuilt services as well. So like their services division is growing at a much faster pace compared to the actual products that they make. But again, like they're at the forefront of any sort of decision around these sort of devices. So they probably will be the ones who bring out the first like Oculus glasses that's just ones that you can wear around every single day. But then in doing so, they'll have to build out a sort of system that will, immerse themselves into that sort of reality too. So, like, they will eventually shift down that road, and whether they have more of an open network, we'll see.
Well, they have to.
Yeah.
If they want to exist in this world, they have to. Like, that's the thing is like, the technology is going to accelerate so much that we can start to spend time in, like Axie. Axie's generating, 600 million every 30 days at the moment? They're like, it's their fucking second year in business or third year in business. And it's like, okay, well, what happens when they have so much capital that they can start to go, they can
go
start
vertical and start to build their own devices.
Exactly. And it's going to be like, okay, well, I want to go now from Axie into this world that exists here, but I can't because they're gatekeeping. So they're going to be like, that's what I'm saying about Facebook, is that Facebook's going to have to completely change their business model or their mode, right? To go, well, we're going to now allow people to jump in and out, which, great. It sounds like it's easy to do, but as soon as you do that, you're at risk of losing everyone. Yeah, like if they get this wrong, and Facebook's Facebook, they'll probably crush it, right? But I'm interested to see how these big corporations who have literally been the gatekeepers for so long, and have kept you indulged into their world, actually go when they are forced to open up, because that is the incentive that Web3 creates. Can Zuck do it? Can Zuck, is he willing to lose it all? He's a power guy. Zuck's a power man. Is he really going to be able to sit there and actually let it all go? Risk all their members leaving.
This is probably why he's looking to step down. They're probably going to look at bringing in somebody who is more of a specialist in this field, because they'll need to shift from their current industry into probably more of like a gaming sort of company. So they might bring someone in from like an Epic Games or someone like that because that's what's needed really. And then they obviously have to build out all the hardware to make it possible, because if, like right now, you're not just going to sit in your living room with a massive Oculus on your face because it's not stylish. You look like an idiot. So they're going to have to really try and trim that down. And we're probably, I would say we're probably at least 10 years away from having that. It's not going to be a very quick succession in terms of the actual hardware, but a lot of the software that comes with it is already underway. So
it's all happening.
It's exciting.
It's really exciting.
You got to jump on board, because if you don't start to immerse yourself, you're going to be left behind.
Big news. Big news. That was meant to be a short segment, but that's the episode, I think.
We had so much to talk about outside of this.
I know. We're going to have to wrap up what we were actually going to talk about for another episode, because there was, we didn't realize that there was going to be this kind of news, and in reality, we got to talk about it. So, I really apologize too, guys. We're getting a bit of a storm at the moment, so the sound might not be great, but
it's crazy.
Hopefully it wasn't too bad, but that's the Investors Podcast. What a fucking day. And who knows what's going to happen over the next month. You're probably going to see a lot of this kind of news and a lot of this kind of stuff start to unravel. So it's really exciting. It's a digital revolution. It's a revolution of many systems at the moment, and we're hoping to try and just have discussions that maybe give you some insight and help you make some informed decisions. All right, rightio. Go and do what you... Oh. Go and do... Sorry, Braden just sneezed. Had to say that because I look like an idiot. Go and do what you need to with it. Really hope you enjoyed the episode, guys, and we'll see you next week. Hey, guys. So as we end today's podcast, I wanted to say a massive thank you to you. You've made it to the end, so you've tuned into the whole episode, which is something that we're extremely grateful for. If you're new to the podcast... hitting the subscribe button is really, really important to us, because it really helps us out a lot. The more subscribers we get, the more, the bigger the community we build, the more that we can progress with our vision, and the more that we can start to expand and keep having, these amazing conversations. So we're really thankful. And one thing that we're also really thankful for, which, has been a big driver for me personally with the podcast, is just the messages that we get on the Instagram. I still go through the Instagram and like to have conversations with people that are engaging with us. It means so much, and it's great to hear the stories of people progressing and learning and how we're impacting you, the listener. So that's something we're really appreciative of. And I actually want to go through and actually mention some people who we had some great conversations with on our social media, these people reached out. So Alicia Pyers, it was great chatting with you, and I'm super appreciative for you reaching out to the Instagram, and it's great to hear your story and what's inspiring you and the changes that you're making. And also Jess Dinning. Jess was lucky enough to talk to you last week, and that was really, really amazing. And just the same thing goes. The conversations that we have with you guys, it's crazy how much of an impact it makes on us as a company and what we're striving to do. So a massive thank you to you two and everybody else who's reaching out and sharing and doing those things. But the two things that you can do that will help us the most is make sure that you're subscribed, and a big thanks to everyone who's leaving reviews as well, because that shows people that this is a safe space for them to come and listen and learn, and that's really the most important things to us. Really hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and we will see you next week.